On March 22, 2014, one of the most horrifying discoveries in Nigerian history was made in the quiet soca community of Ibadan. What started as a simple search for a missing motorcyclist would reveal a nightmare that had been hidden for years. Over 20 decomposing bodies, 50 human skulls, clothes belonging to men, women, and even children scattered across the forest floor. This discovery would become known as the Ibadan Forest of Death, and to this day, no one has been held responsible for the evil that took place there. But how did this horror come to light? It all began with a motorcyclist named Abaka. On Friday, March 21st, 2014, Abaka was doing what he did every day, riding his motorcycle through the streets of Ibadan, taking passengers from one place to another. He had just picked up a friend when his phone started ringing and ringing. The calls were so persistent that Abaka had to stop his bike to answer. On the other end was another friend, desperate and in a hurry. "Please come get me," the friend begged. "I need to go to Soka area urgently." Abaka told him he was already with a passenger but would come pick him up after. The friend agreed to wait. Now, let me tell you something that bothers me about this story. If this friend was truly in such a hurry, why didn't he just take another motorcycle? Abaka wasn't the only rider in Ibadan. There were taxis, other bikes, many options. But no, this friend specifically waited for Abaka. That detail would become important later. After dropping his first passenger, Abaka felt uneasy about the late hour. If he took this friend to Soka and back, he'd be riding alone in the dark. So he picked up his cousin for company. Together, they went to collect the waiting friend. The three of them headed towards Soka area. That was the last time anyone saw Abaka and his cousin alive. Saturday morning came. Abaka's family was frantic. His fellow motorcyclists were worried. Where was their friend who never missed a day of work? Then someone remembered. That desperate friend who needed to go to Soka. Armed with this information, Abaka's friends and family organized a search party. They drove to Soka area, searching everywhere. Near a river, they spotted something that made their hearts race. Abaka's motorcycle, abandoned. They knew their friend had to be close. The search party split up, following paths through the forest. Then came something strange. A phone call from Abaka himself. His voice was weak, terrified. "I don't know where I am," he said. "It feels like I've been buried alive. I can hear footsteps above me. Please help me." As the search party moved deeper into the forest, they heard cries. Multiple voices begging for water. "Please, we're thirsty. Give us water." Following the sounds, they approached an uncompleted building. Gunshots rang out. Someone was shooting at them. But the search party was too large, too determined. They pushed forward. What they found inside that building would haunt them forever. Men and women chained to walls, living skeletons, too weak to even stand. The search party broke the chains, freed the captives they could find. Some ran immediately, using whatever strength they had left to escape. Others could barely move. But where was Abaka? They kept calling his phone, and he kept saying he could hear them, that he was underground somewhere. They dug frantically, following his voice. Then his phone died. They never found him. To this day, Abaka's body likely remains buried somewhere in that cursed forest. But the search revealed something far worse than one missing motorcyclist. In another building, they found bodies, fresh corpses, decomposing remains, some without heads, some without limbs. Human skulls littered the forest floor like stones. Clothes, shoes, bags, all abandoned. Evidence of hundreds of victims. The police arrived to find 7 survivors still at the scene. 1 collapsed and died right in front of them, leaving 6. These 6 would tell stories that revealed the true horror of what had been happening in Soka Forest. One survivor was 72-year-old Cecilia Okaka. She had been missing since 2008. 6 years. 6 years in that hell. But here's what makes it worse. Cecilia didn't disappear from Ibadan. She vanished from Edo State 5 hours away. She'd gone to the market one morning and never returned home. Someone had brought her to this forest. Someone had sold her. Think about that. An elderly woman goes to buy vegetables and ends up chained in a forest for 6 years. How many birthdays did her family celebrate without her? How many times did her grandchildren ask where she was? Another survivor, Nephew Shitu, told a different story. He was selling traditional medicine on the street when men claiming to be government officials arrested him for violating environmental laws. They threw him in a van. He was the only one arrested that day, which should have been suspicious. Next thing he knew, he was chained in that building. A woman named Titi was taken from right in front of her house. The men simply told her she was needed somewhere. That's all it took. Do you see the pattern? These weren't random kidnappings. These people were targeted, selected, sold. The survivors were clear about one thing. New victims arrived every single day. Every day, someone's mother, father, child, or friend was dragged into that forest. The guards who watched them were different from the ones who brought new victims. This was an organized operation, a human trafficking network that had been running for years. But what was the purpose? Why keep people chained in a forest? The evidence tells a dark story. Over 50 complete bodies were found, suggesting victims who died from starvation or abuse. But over 100 skulls were discovered without bodies. Body parts scattered everywhere. Limbs, organs. This wasn't just murder. This was harvesting. Some victims were kept alive for years, barely fed, waiting. For what? Until someone needed their head for rituals? Their organs for sale? We may never know for certain. What makes this even more disturbing is the location. This wasn't some remote wilderness. There were houses nearby, a plastic bottle factory. People lived and worked around this forest. For 10 years, cries for help echoed through those trees. For 10 years, people were brought there daily. How did no one notice? The answer is both simple and horrifying. The operators posed as a mental health facility. When neighbors heard screams, they thought it was just mad people getting treatment. When they saw people being brought in, they assumed it was patients. A perfect cover for a house of horrors. The government's response raised even more questions. When forensic experts were ordered from Abuja to investigate, the Oyo state government had already started demolishing the buildings. Evidence destroyed. Walls torn down. Any chance of finding more victims like Abaka, still buried alive, lost forever? Crowds of people came, hoping to find their missing relatives. The government sent military officers to block them. Some who insisted on searching were shot. 2 died, just trying to find their loved ones. Why was the government so eager to bury this story? So quick to destroy evidence? So desperate to stop investigation? The police claimed they arrested 7 guards who named their employer, but no one was ever charged. No one was prosecuted. No one paid for the hundreds of lives destroyed in that forest. You know what stands there now? A school. They built a school on top of a mass grave. Children play where human beings were harvested like animals. Every time I think about this case, I think about Abaka, still underground, still waiting to be found. I think about the families who will never know what happened to their loved ones. I think about how this went on for a decade, in plain sight. But mostly, I think about that friend who desperately needed to go to Soka, the one who waited specifically for Abaka, the one who led him to his death, because that's the real horror of the Soka forest. It wasn't strangers snatching people off the streets. It was friends, neighbors, people you trusted, trading human lives for money. How many people in Ibadan still walk free, knowing they sold someone to that forest? How many collected their blood money and attended the funerals, comforting grieving families? The Soka Forest of Death remains one of Nigeria's darkest mysteries, not because we don't know what happened there. We know. Bodies were harvested. People were kept like livestock. Organs were sold. Heads were taken for rituals. The mystery is how the powerful people behind it made it all disappear. How they turned a crime scene into a school. How they silenced witnesses and stopped investigations. How they got away with it. Somewhere in Nigeria, the masterminds of the Soka forest are living their lives. Free, wealthy from their blood trade, protected by their connections, while families still search for answers that will never come. So this was today's case. If you're still watching, please drop a heart in the comments. Let me know what country you're watching from. And ask yourself, in your own community, what horrors might be hiding in plain sight? What cries for help are being ignored? Because the real lesson of the Soka forest isn't just about what happened in Ibadan, it's about what could be happening anywhere, right now, while we choose not to see. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the people we trust most are the ones capable of the greatest betrayal.